All right, let's dive into this. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You guys sent in some really interesting excerpts. We're going to try to break this down and help everyone listening, understand money a little bit better.
Yeah. And, Robert Kiyosaki's book really kind of turns traditional thinking on its head.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what we find. It's all about the lessons he learned growing up. He had, he says he had two dads. His biological father, who he calls Poor Dad, and his best friend's dad, who was Rich Dad. So, contrasting views on money really kind of shaped his whole perspective.
Yeah. That's what makes this book so interesting, right? It's thought-provoking. It challenges, a lot of conventional wisdom about money. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that really kind of jumps out right away is his concept of the rat race. I mean, have you ever felt like you're working hard, but you're not getting ahead financially, like you're stuck?
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of people resonate with that feeling. It's like you're working, but you're not making any real progress toward financial freedom.
Exactly. And it's not just about having, a low-paying job or anything. Like you could have a really high income and still be stuck in this rat race.
Yeah. Kiyosaki argues it's more about your mindset and your financial habits than your actual income.
Okay.
And he uses this analogy, I think, to illustrate the rat race.
Yeah.
He describes it as people, they go to school, they get good grades, they get a secure job, they do everything they're supposed to do.
Right.
And they start making money, but then they get trapped.
Oh, yeah.
In this cycle of working to pay bills and accumulate debt,
Oh, for sure. And then they want to buy a house, and that's another...
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
That's another kind of, I guess liability, right?
Yeah, well, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, Kiyosaki uses a board game to illustrate this.
Oh, right.
His cash flow game. And he talks about how he was playing with a banker once.
Okay.
And this is someone, who supposedly understands finance. And even the banker had this kind of aha moment while playing the game. He's like, oh, wow, I'm stuck in this rat race.
So he was like seeing his own life, like, reflected in the game.
Exactly.
Wow.
And Kiyosaki argues that to get out of this rat race, the first thing you need to understand is the difference between an asset and a liability.
Okay, yeah. So this is one of the core principles in the book, and this is where he kind of really challenges traditional thinking about money. Right.
Yeah, he says most people are trained to work for money, but not to manage it effectively.
Mm-hmm.
They focus on increasing their income, but they don't pay enough attention to where that money's going.
Yeah. And
that's where this whole asset and liability thing comes in. And he uses this simple visual, like two columns, assets on one side and liabilities on the other.
Right.
And assets put money in your pocket.
Okay.
Liabilities take money out.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it seems straightforward, but then he challenges our assumptions about what actually goes in those columns.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So, for instance, he argues that a house, which a lot of people consider an asset, is actually often a liability.
Oh, I see, yeah. That's something that a lot of people, debate, I think.
It is counterintuitive.
Mm-hmm.
But, his point is that a house primarily generates expenses,
mm-hmm.
mortgage payments, property taxes, all that. Maintenance, insurance. So all of those things are taking money out of your pocket.
Right.
He even shares his own experience. He bought a house, and it challenged his own assumptions about homeownership.
Interesting.
He realized that while a house can provide a place to live,
mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily putting money in his pocket.
Right. It's not generating income.
Exactly. And that goes back to that shift in mindset that he talks about. It's not just about earning more money. It's about making your money work for you.
So instead of like focusing on your paycheck, like how do I get a bigger paycheck? It's like, what am I doing with that money to beat those assets?
Exactly.
And then that kind of leads into his third secret, which is mind your own business.
Right. Which is not about starting a company, right?
Right. It's not necessarily about starting a company. It's about building your asset column.
Okay.
And he has this great anecdote about Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's.
Yeah.
Kroc was giving a talk to business students, and someone asked him, what business are you in?
Right.
And you would think he would say hamburgers.
Right. Yeah, McDonald's.
But he surprised everyone by saying he was in the real estate business.
Wow. So he was seeing the big picture.
Yeah.
He wasn't just selling burgers, he was building an empire.
He was thinking about those assets.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
You know, the land that those restaurants are on was a major part of his strategy.
Right. And that's something that, I think a lot of people, again, they don't think about. They're like, oh, I'm just going to, focus on my job. But it's like, how can I use that to build something bigger?
Yeah.
That's really cool. So that's thinking outside the box a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got this idea of the rat race. We've got assets versus liabilities. We've got mind your own business. What else?
So let's dive into the next concept.
So that McDonald's story, I mean, that's just like, it just highlights the power of seeing opportunities that others miss.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of ties into another idea that he brings up, which is this whole concept of financial literacy, like how important that is.
Yeah, Kiyosaki is a big advocate for financial education. I mean, he really believes it's the key to, breaking free from that rat race that we talked about.
Well, and he's pretty tough on the education system, right?
Yeah.
He's basically saying that it doesn't really prepare people to handle their money.
Yeah. He argues that, we're taught to work for money, but not how to make money work for us.
Right.
And that's where he thinks financial literacy comes in.
Okay.
It's about understanding how money works.
Yeah. Like understanding the rules of the game.
Exactly. And he actually learned this from his rich dad. He shares a story about getting his first job working for Rich Dad, and he was making 10 cents an hour.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of a tough lesson at the time, but it really, he says, it taught him the value of hard work and negotiation and thinking outside the box.
Right. So it wasn't just about the money, it was about the lessons that he was learning.
Exactly. And it really shaped his perspective on money, and, that it's not just about earning a paycheck.
Right.
It's about understanding how to create value.
So like you're building wealth.
Yeah.
Not just getting a paycheck.
Yeah. And that kind of leads into another concept from the book, which is this idea that the rich invent money.
Okay, now that sounds a little mysterious.
It does.
But I think what he's getting at is that it's about, overcoming your fear and using your knowledge to create opportunities.
Yeah, and he has this amazing story about buying a $1.2 million apartment building with no money down.
Wait, no money down. How is that even possible?
Well, he used his knowledge of real estate and his negotiation skills to structure a deal where he essentially flipped the contract. So he found a buyer.
Oh, wow.
Before he even closed on the purchase.
So he was profiting without even owning the building.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
It's thinking on your feet, right?
Yeah.
But it takes guts and a deep understanding of how to use these financial instruments. But
Sure.
I think what's really important here is not necessarily the specifics of the deal.
Right.
But the mindset that it represents.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
It's about, seeing possibilities that others might miss, being willing to take a risk.
Okay.
And using your financial intelligence to create wealth.
So it's not just working hard, it's working smart.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that kind of brings up another point that Kiyosaki makes, which is about overcoming fear.
Okay.
He argues that fear can be really paralyzing.
Right.
It can keep us stuck in that rat race.
Right. So how do you overcome that?
Well, he makes a distinction between healthy fear, which helps us avoid reckless decisions.
Okay.
And the kind of fear that prevents us from taking the necessary risks.
Right.
To build wealth.
So like, you don't want to be obviously reckless.
Right.
But you don't want to let fear paralyze you.
Exactly.
No.
And he believes that knowledge and education are the antidotes to fear. The more you understand about money and investing, the less likely you are to make decisions based on fear or emotion.
Makes sense.
And he also talks about the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people.
So choosing your friends carefully. I mean, we've all heard that. But like in a financial context, what does that mean?
Well, it's about being mindful of the messages that you're absorbing about money. If you're constantly around people who are struggling financially, you're more likely to kind of adopt their limiting beliefs.
Right.
Money is hard to come by, all of that.
But if you're around people who are, financially successful,
yeah,
you're going to start to think differently about money.
Yeah, you'll be exposed to new ideas, new perspectives.
Okay.
It's about creating an environment that supports your financial growth.
Okay.
He also emphasizes this idea of paying yourself first.
Oh, yeah. Now, a lot of people misunderstand that, right?
They do. A lot of people think that means, spending money on yourself.
Like treat yourself.
Treat yourself. Exactly.
But it's not about that.
It's not about splurging.
Okay.
It's about prioritizing your financial future
Okay.
by setting aside a portion of your income
Okay.
for savings and investments before you pay any other bills.
Oh, so it's about building that foundation,
Yeah.
even if it starts small.
Even if it starts small.
Like that money is yours. It's not going to the landlord or whatever.
Actually, you're putting your financial well-being first
Okay.
rather than letting it be an afterthought.
Okay, that makes sense.
He also talks about the importance of finding mentors.
Okay.
People who have already achieved
Yep.
the level of success that you want.
So find someone who's already done it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And mentors can provide really valuable insights, advice, support,
Yeah.
help you avoid costly mistakes,
Right.
and accelerate your progress.
But he also says, like, don't take advice from people who aren't financially successful,
yeah,
right?
you want to learn from people who have a proven track record.
Right. Like don't take driving lessons from someone who's never driven a car.
Exactly.
Right.
You want someone who knows the road.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mhm.
So we've got to find our mentors. What else did we take away?
Well, and of course it's not enough to just read books or listen to this deep dive.
Right?
You have to take action.
Right?
Knowledge is only powerful
Yeah.
when it's applied.
Yeah.
Kiyosaki encourages us to take calculated risks, to step outside of our comfort zones, and even to embrace the possibility of failure.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. He sees that as a learning opportunity.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's about adopting a mindset of continuous improvement,
Okay.
not being afraid to make mistakes.
Right. Because everyone makes mistakes, especially when you're first starting out.
Right.
It's part of the process.
It is. And finally, he also stresses the importance of giving back.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, that's not something you necessarily expect from a book about building wealth.
Yeah.
But it's a good reminder.
It is. He believes that true wealth is not just about accumulating money.
Okay.
It's about using it to make a positive impact on the world.
So it's like sharing your abundance, giving back to others.
Yeah. Contributing to causes you care about. Recognizing that money is a tool
Mm-hmm.
that can be used for good.
That's a good point. So, I mean, this is a lot to unpack, right?
Yeah.
We've gone through a lot of different ideas here from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So far, what's kind of resonating with you the most?
Honestly, I think one of the things that sticks with me is that shift in mindset from employee to investor.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It's about seeing money as a tool to create freedom and opportunity.
Right.
Not just something you trade your time for.
Right. You're not just working for a paycheck.
Exactly. And that's a shift that, anyone can make.
Okay.
Regardless of their income level.
So anyone listening right now, they can start making that shift.
Yeah, I think so. It's about, taking control of your financial future.
Okay.
Building assets.
Mm-hmm.
And developing your financial intelligence.
It's a journey, right?
It is. It's a journey. And every step you take towards financial literacy brings you closer to your goals.
Well, that's inspiring. Okay, it's interesting how he really makes you kind of question things that you always thought were true about money, like the house thing.
Yeah. He really challenges that assumption that a house is an automatic asset.
Right. And he also kind of challenges the idea that you should just take financial advice from anyone.
Yeah.
He even says, don't take advice from poor people, which...
That sounds harsh.
It does sound harsh.
Yeah.
But I get what he's saying. It's like, be careful who you're getting your information from.
Yeah.
Are they living the kind of life that you want financially? Have they actually walked the walk?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Find those mentors.
Right.
Those rich dads.
Yeah, the rich dads who can actually guide you because they've been there.
Yeah.
And speaking of lessons from Rich Dad, I mean, one of the most interesting stories in the book is about how he got Robert and his friend Mike to work for him for free.
Yeah.
Which, like, on the surface, it sounds like, what?
Right.
Who wants to work for free?
Slave labor. Yeah.
Right.
But there was a deeper lesson there. It wasn't about exploiting them. It was about teaching them how to think about money.
Yeah.
In a different way.
Yeah. So it was a different kind of education.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was about understanding.
Yeah.
That true wealth.
Yeah.
Comes from building assets, not just trading your time for money.
Right. It was like a crash course in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then later on, when they started their little business,
Oh, yeah.
Collecting toothpaste tubes
Right.
to melt down. That was another great example.
That was such a creative story. And it really, brought to life those principles,
Absolutely.
of business in such a tangible way.
Yeah, supply and demand,
Right.
production,
Yeah.
marketing. They even had to deal with customer complaints.
Right, because their factory didn't quite work the way they wanted it to.
Right.
But it shows that, you don't need a fancy MBA to start understanding these concepts.
Exactly.
It's like, just get out there,
Yeah. Get your hands dirty.
Try things out.
Yeah.
And I think, it all comes back to this thing that Kiyosaki keeps saying about financial education. He's not a big fan of the traditional school system because he feels like it doesn't teach you what you need to know about money.
Yeah. He's critical of the way money is taught, or not taught, rather.
Right. It's like they focus on all this academic stuff, but they don't teach you practical skills.
Yeah.
Like how to manage your money.
How to balance a checkbook.
Right.
How to invest.
It's like you're sending kids out into the world.
Totally unprepared.
Totally unprepared.
Yeah.
To deal with, this really crucial part of life. Right, exactly. And then he also goes into this whole thing about how the rich use corporations to their advantage, the tax benefits and the legal protections and all that, which, again, that's where he gets a little controversial, I think.
Yeah.
Because some people criticize and they're like, oh, you're just promoting these strategies that, help the wealthy.
Right. But his point is that, he's just explaining how the system works.
Right.
And that anyone can use this knowledge to build wealth.
Right. So it's like he's trying to level the playing field.
Yeah.
By saying, hey, this is how it works. Now you can use it too.
Exactly.
Okay.
But, he wants to give everyone access to the same tools.
Right. Exactly. And then, but even beyond all the specifics about, financial strategies, he really kind of hammers home the importance of mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. He says your beliefs about money can either limit you or empower you.
Right. So if you think that wealth is only for a select few, you're probably not going to get there.
Yeah.
But if you think, okay, abundance is possible, I can achieve this, then you're opening yourself up to those opportunities.
It's about adopting that mindset of abundance.
Yeah.
But it's not just about positive thinking, though, right? You have to take action. You have to apply it.
Yeah. It's like he says, ideas are only valuable when they're put into practice.
Yeah.
So get out there. Take some action.
Take those small steps. And even if you stumble a little bit, it's okay. Keep moving forward.
It's all part of the process. Right. So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
Yeah, we have.
I mean, Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's a pretty dense book, but it's packed with, I think, really valuable insights.
Yeah, it's a classic for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess if you had to kind of boil it down, what would be your, one key takeaway from Rich Dad Poor Dad?
For me, it would be that emphasis on taking control of your financial future.
Yeah, I like that.
It's not about waiting for someone else to hand you a raise or a promotion. It's about understanding how money works and making it work for you.
That's a good one. It's about becoming financially literate.
Yeah.
Empowered to make your own decisions.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really what Kiyosaki is trying to do with this book. He's trying to empower people.
Give them the tools
Yeah.
And the knowledge to take control.
Exactly. Okay. Well, this has been a really, really fascinating deep dive. I really appreciate you joining me.
It's been my pleasure.
And for everyone listening, I mean, if you could ask Robert Kiyosaki one question about your personal finances, what would it be?
Yeah, what would it be? Think about that.
Yeah. Keep those questions coming and keep exploring the world of financial knowledge because it's out there.
It is.
And the more you learn, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Financial freedom is within your reach.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining me.
Thanks for having me.